Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sheila Matias. I'm the Executive Director of the Leadership Institute here at PNW. I'm joined today by my two colleagues, Jason Williams from the Society of Innovators at PNW, and my pal, Makisha Richardson from the Leadership Institute. Makisha is going to be our facilitator, kind of our coordinator today. So we'll start with a presentation, kind of questioning and interview style, kind of a fireside chat for the first 25 to 30 minutes. And then we'll go to some questions and some further discussion. So everyone will have a chance to chat. The theme today is women's history. We are welcoming men as well because they have a mother and they often have partners and daughters and sisters. So men certainly are an important part of this discussion, but we're celebrating being females, being empowered women, being inspirational women. And as I was sharing with our speakers before we started, oftentimes people think, oh, that woman's got it all together. You know, she doesn't really have the things that I have in my life. She doesn't have children. She doesn't have financial things. She doesn't have scheduling. And it's often nice to kind of pull the curtain back and see that everyone has challenges and everyone pulls themselves up and rises to the occasion. So we've got three amazing women leaders with us today. We're very excited about that. So without further ado, Makisha, I'll pass it to you, and I'm sure it's going to be a great discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheila. You are an amazing woman yourself, a trailblazer and a great example to us all. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much. That's so
sweet. Welcome. And thank you so much to our esteemed guests. We're so happy to have you with us today. Today, as Sheila said, we are celebrating Women's History Month. This is a part of the overall celebration that PNW does. All month long, there have been fantastic celebrations happening and continuing to happen on and around both campuses. So we're just really happy to be amongst that number, right? We are taking the time out to speak with three of the Women on the Rise honorees. So Women on the Rise is something that was started 3 years ago by Jason Williams and our partner at the Society of Innovators. And it started off really as just, you know, we're taking a look. He's looking around the region and seeing who are the movers and shakers, what women are being honored or nominated in other categories or by other entities, you know, who's been recently promoted, those kind of things, who's starting a business. And then he posted that list, and it got such a great reception from the people who were honored that 1 year. So then Sheila and I butted in. We said, we think we can help you to kind of judge this up a little bit. So that's what we did. So last year, we actually honored women as well. And we actually had a reception and we gave the women gifts. And it was a phenomenal turnout. It was very well received. And so we figured, why not do it again? And then this year, we decided to do 24 for 24. So it's 2024. So we honored 24 women. And we have two of those women here with us today, Felicia Blakely and Gianna Zyla. I know Gianna from her old last name. We're going to get into that a little bit more. So that's why I paused. And then we have 2023 honoree Jocelyn Kelly of Jay's Breakfast Club here with us today. So we're going to jump right in. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. I'm super excited. I'm mainly excited because, as I shared before we let the audience in, we have someone from just about every, we covered the whole gambit, right? So we have a faith-based person with us, we have an entrepreneur with us, and we have someone who is climbing the ladders. I mean, she's blowing the ceiling out. There is no ceiling in the corporate world. So I'm really happy to have you guys here. And what I want us to focus on mainly is just how to keep each other encouraged. Because when you have these types of exciting careers, like as you all do, we know that there are challenges that come up. And so the challenges are designed to probably stop us, but we don't let it, right? We press on, we persevere. And I want us to just share our stories, or you got to share your stories of how you persevering. But before we do that, I do want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to start off with Felicia. I'm going to ask each of you the same question. Tell us about your leadership journey, Felicia. How did you get started in your career? And what path have you taken? Tell us about the path that you took to lead you where you are today.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me again. I am Felicia Blakely. I am a registered medical assistant. I am currently finishing up my nursing program. As you can see, I am at school right now, juggling the schedule as usual, because that's what we do, right?
Mhm.
I am, let's see, the executive pastor of High Praise Ministries, where I serve alongside my husband for 19 years in ministry here in Michigan City, Indiana. And I believe through ministry, it opened up just broader doors for me to be able to be effective during this leadership journey. And so I was able to meet people from just all different multifacets of life. And so that has really opened up the door for who I am today and what I do. And so I often say or ask myself, or, people argue the question, they'll say, are leaders born or are leaders made? And I say, why can't it be both? Because before I even knew I had a purpose, I believe that I was created and predestined for this purpose. And once I realized my purpose, then it was my job to cultivate the purpose. And that's where being made came in. And so I am on a journey of always learning, always growing, always becoming into the person that I need to become. And it's just an amazing journey that I'm on.
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing. Jocelyn, we'll move to you. Tell us about your leadership journey.
What she said.
Yes.
But Felicia definitely hit it in the head, and I resonate with a lot of things that she described. As far as the journey, I would say that life comes with a whole lot of things. And often we say we're given lemons, and what do we do with those lemons? And in my life, I've learned how to make lemonade, limoncello, lemon cake, lemon bread. We're going to just do whatever we need to do with what's given to us, because I firmly believe that things don't just happen, but they happen justly. There were years that I would pray and just really try to figure out what my purpose was. And I was so busy trying to find a purpose that I did not realize during that process that God was preparing me for something that I had no idea, no concept of. Or sometimes I wake up and I'll even ask myself, how did I get to this place? I did everything I was supposed to do growing up. I tried to, at least. I went to school. I got a degree. I got another degree. I went and got a great job. And, people say everything is not for everybody. I went to corporate, and every goal that I set, I was fortunate to achieve those goals, but I was very unhappy. Certain things came in my life that should have tore me to pieces. Left me destitute, but they actually did something else. The brokenness actually forced me to understand the fortitude, my strength, and my resilience to keep pushing forward. And my son, my only son, actually died by suicide in 2014. His last words to me were, "Mom, I love you, but I'm done living." Those words were transformative to me, because what it did for me was to make me look at life as this. We're given this, everything is a present. It's a gift to us. And so we have to love to live. And we all know that things are going to get hard. And when they get hard, we have to tie a knot in it, and we live for those things that we love. So it's about loving to live and living to love. And right now, my destiny, I could not, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I wouldn't tell you that I'll be owning anything, let alone be empowering and employing other folks. But here we are today, and the journey that life has taken me, like the children of Israel, who went around and around to get right across, is where I am. And those lessons that I learned in that wayward journey have made me the woman that I am today, that I'm proud to be today, in spite of and despite.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Before we jump to Gianna, I have to say, I appreciate you for sharing that. Grief does something to us, right? Yes. It can either shrink us or grow us. And so the ones who have chosen to shrink, it may not be your choice, but I encourage you to keep pushing, because like Jocelyn, like myself, people who have dealt with grief, there is power in it. You just have to keep pushing till you find it. So thank you so much for being honest and sharing that, Jocelyn. Gianna, you actually joined us for the Women's Summit last year, and I was so amazed with your story. That's why we asked you to come back today. So can you please tell us about your leadership journey and how you ended up where you are today?
So really echoing both of the speakers that have just commented on their journeys, for me, leadership isn't anything I ever thought that I would be doing. My background is in engineering. I have all these hard hats behind you. I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. I went to college in Michigan, a small town in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, before coming down to this area. I thought going into college, I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to go out to the workforce, and that's what you do. That's where it ends. I was very fortunate, and it was a very mixed experience, but my first job out of college, I was a frontline foreman in the steel mills. So I was 23. That was my first job, and this is for someone that thought that they were going to graduate and be an engineer, either designing stuff or looking at process improvements. It was kind of a shock to me to do that, but very fortunate for myself that I found that I liked leading people. I liked the fact that I could see the growth in somebody else. Leadership, if it's true leadership, isn't about your advancement and how you can get to the next level. It's how you bring and rally that team to achieve a common goal. And I found that I really liked that, and I didn't realize that I did until I had that experience. And it was just amazing. So now, as I'm deciding how I want to progress my career, that's when I get asked from people, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what's your next step? What's the next role you want? What I always say is, I'm really happy leading teams. I could lead teams in the position I'm in right now. You could advance me and progress me and all that fun stuff. But what really fills my cup at the end of the day, what I enjoy, even on the tough days, is having someone on my team feel like they completed a task and they feel gratification from that, and being able to support them in doing that. That to me is leadership, and something that I feel like all the adventures I've had in my life have led me to that realization. And that's how I structure my life, and my leadership style is around that.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to jump back to Felicia. The question, I think the natural next question should be, how do you empower yourself? When we think about women's empowerment, right, it should be important to all of us, right? And it's definitely necessary and needed still in 2024. But how do you empower yourself first, and then the other women around you?
Well, for me, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I needed, and I knew what I lacked. And I knew what that void felt like. And I promised myself and God years ago, God, if you ever gave me any type of influence, that I would use it to build people and not tear people down. And because I knew what I wanted, and for whatever reason, I didn't get it in my childhood growing up, and that's, no lack to those who were in my life, growing up, but I just didn't get what I needed. So I knew what that felt like. And so it was important to me to be that for other people. It was important for me to pour what I felt like I needed into somebody else. And honestly, it started with my children. It was important for me to pour into my children and give them the necessary tools they needed so they would be without excuse when they grew up to say that they didn't have what it took to succeed. Now that they're older, now it's up to them to cultivate what was given, what was poured into them. And so it's just important to me because it's personal. And so I guess we can say, kind of out of my lack, I had a desire to pour abundance into others because I knew what that void felt like, and it didn't feel good.
That's good. That's good. If I can share a personal really, really quickly. So I don't have children, 47 years old, and I made a decision some years ago that I probably would not decide to have children. And it's been a good decision for me. But
Yeah.
as a woman, I have struggled, going back and forth with, okay, who am I going to leave something to? But I was a teacher for 10 years. And what was revealed to me was that those were my kids. And I did treat them. Any of my former students will tell you I treated them like my own. And so I felt that it was
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
same thing talking about. I had a great childhood. I thought it was great. But some of the students that I served, you can tell that they were lacking certain things on the
Mhm.
home. And so that's where I came in. I was more than just their teacher. I was able to pour into them some of the lessons that I had learned over the years.
Yeah.
So since we're encouraging other women, and motherhood is so important. And I love your
Yes.
response, Felicia. But I want to make sure that we take time to encourage those women who don't have children too. Just because you don't have children, you can still pour. You can still encourage.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. That's really good. Thank you so much.
And that was your purpose. And that was a
Yeah.
part of your purpose. And you
Yes.
was able to walk that purpose out and feel fulfilled
Yeah,
in
and
doing
feel
your
fulfilled.
purpose.
Yes. And so that void that you're talking about, that isn't there for me, because a lot of my students still call me mom. They
Yeah.
still, reach back to me and let me know how they're doing. It feels really, really good to see them post online. Some of them have children. I'm not ready for my babies to have babies, but some of them do have kids, and it just feels really, really good to see a lot of them doing so well today. So yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Jocelyn, what about you? What do you do to empower yourself? And then how do you, and I'm going to give a shout out to your restaurant, because one thing that you do to empower me are those mimosa flights at, at
J Moses. J Moses.
J Moses. I love them. Go ahead.
First of all, I always think of the song, you have to encourage yourself. So
Yeah.
something that I have definitely been working on the last couple of years is I'm cognizant on how I speak to myself.
Ooh. Self-talk. Yeah.
Grace is afforded to us all, but we have to give ourselves grace. There are days when I just don't have it. I can't push. I just have to sat down, not sit, but sat down. And I sat down, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Some days you may not feel like smiling, and it's okay. Give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm learning that in giving myself grace, I have more of a patience, more of a giving spirit to extend that to others as well.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what someone is going through. This world is so void of empathy during this time, and it's sad. And so from my life experiences, I've learned that you have to be kind to yourself. You have to value yourself, because it starts with you. You teach people how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I've learned to take time out for myself. It's okay to buy the shoes as long as you work. It's okay to buy the bag as long as you're working. It all has to make sense, but I personally encourage myself by being good to myself, affording myself that opportunity. There are days when I won't be 100, but even if I'm 80, if I'm 50 that day, even if I'm 10, it's okay to be in that moment 10, because in the next moment, I know I'll be right back at it. And so that resilience is one way that I encourage myself.
Good. That's really good. I love that. And you are so correct. And the way you treat yourself shows other people how to treat you. That takes time to learn. That was something I had to learn over time. That negative self-talk that cuts out so many opportunities for yourself. And so it's really important that we do learn to, and like you can catch it too. You hear yourself saying certain things, and you can just catch it and flip it and say something positive, right, about yourself.
You put on that press and you be like, okay, well, there's room for improvement.
Yeah. And we all have those days. So it's really important. I love what you said too about giving yourself grace. Give yourself a measure of grace. That's really good. Gianna, what about you? What are some things that you do to empower yourself and some things that you do to empower the women around you?
So I am a perfectionist. I am really, really tough on myself because I want everything to just be just right. I think part of that is my personality, and then part of that is my engineering kind of mind going in there. We get a lot of paralysis by analysis. So you just start thinking of everything so much, and you start to want to get things to be perfect before you deliver that end product. For me, how that impacts my empowerment is that when I do get to that end product, whether it's a presentation, it's a conversation with somebody, whatever it looks like, I walk out of that room, that conference room, and all I can think about is all the things that could have been better. And if I do that all the time, then I get really disempowered because I'm only focusing on the things that could have been better versus the things that were already fantastic. So what I realized in my life is that I tend to do that, and having that self-awareness allows me to be able to take a step back. And when I ask for feedback from other people, I remember those things in the back of my mind as I analyze that myself, and not just relying on others, because everyone's going to have a different perspective, right? They're going to have different feedback, things you may not have seen, and sometimes it's going to be all negative. But that may be coming because of their own perspective. You know, if you ask me as a perfectionist to give you feedback, I'm going to focus on the things that you could be doing better. I may not focus on the things that you could be doing poorly. But if you take that minute, take a step back and look at yourself and analyze what you're doing yourself, it empowers you. And self-empowerment to me is so much more powerful than a leader empowering you or someone in your community. Those things feel great. They feel really good, but if you can do that for yourself, it takes you a step beyond that. I had a leader once tell me to not sweat the small stuff. They said they were at the end of their career, they're retiring, and asked them for a piece of advice. They said, I wish when I was early in my career that I had realized not to sweat the small stuff, because we're going to continue moving forward. The next day is going to come. You're going to get another chance, another presentation, another whatever it is, an opportunity to keep getting better. So don't focus on that small moment, focus on that journey. And hearing that also made me feel really empowered.
That's good. Said too, that not focusing on the small things and then keeping things in perspective, because everybody comes with their own perspective, right? And I also think you gave really good advice to your fellow perfectionists, me being included, right? That is something that I definitely like to work on, and that's really good advice that you just gave. Thank you so much. I'm going to pause for 1 second just to acknowledge the fact that Felicia, you may notice, is in her uniform. She's doing her clinicals today. So she was gracious enough to join us, but she won't be able to stay for the full time. She's leaving us at 12:30. So I'm going to take the next question for you, Felicia. And then when you're ready to exit, feel free to do so.
Okay.
But thank you again so much for joining
No,
us.
thank you for having me.
This first 26 minutes, you've been very powerful. So thank you. So the next question I want to ask, I want to talk about being discouraged. And I think you're the perfect person to start this question, right? Because all of us have felt discouraged at one point or another. Like I said, whether you're a mother, me, like I said, not a mom, but no desire to be a mom. But there are other women who do have that desire and don't, haven't been able to be successful in it. Or career-wise, you want to go for a certain position and, you maybe keep getting passed over for it. Certain things happen in the personal and professional world. And that's specific to women, right? Okay. Have you ever been so discouraged that you wanted to quit? And can you think of a challenging time for you? And then what did you learn from it? And how did you use that to fuel you moving forward? That was a loaded part.
Yeah.
And you got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I can be all day with that because I get that question so often. People ask me that all the time. They look on this outward shell, and I just tell them it's just by the grace of God that he just allows us sometimes to just gracefully go through and just make it look good. But I'm a realist, because I don't want to give you no false hope. because I want you to be able to endure. I want you to be able to sustain. And so, have I ever been discouraged? Yes. Ever wanted to quit? Yes. Did I quit? Yes.
Yeah.
Did I get back up? Yes. Have I ever felt overwhelmed? Feel overwhelmed all the time? Absolutely. We're human, right? Above anything, we're human. And so I like what Jocelyn said, you have to give yourself grace to grow in areas where, for those of us that are perfectionists, we want everything to be perfect and in line, but sometimes we got to lose control to gain control, and we have to be okay with it. And so, yes, all of the above. But in my aha moments, I remembered reading something, and it said, when you feel like quitting, remember why you started. And so I do a lot of remembering. I do a lot of thought processing, because when you are called to lead, I realize that it's not always about you, because too much is given, much is required. And so there are going to be times where a lot of things will just be required of me as a leader, and I'm going to have to push through it. And so I just have to trust the author. I wrote this down. I said, I have to trust the author, because I realize that my faith is not in my ability, but is in God's ability. And so I've learned now not to quit. I've learned to just rest. I've learned that when I feel like I want to quit, instead of quitting, take a rest. Rest. It's okay to rest. In the beginning, when I wanted to, no, I can't rest. I got so much to do. I got to be this for this person. I got to be that for that person. But I realized if I'm never that for myself, I can never effectively be that for somebody else. And so I've learned to reset, to regroup, to refocus on the assignment at hand. And so whenever I feel like quitting, I always ask myself, why did you start in the first place? And I keep those thoughts in the back of my head. And so I'm fueled by just the effectiveness. And hear me, I don't get caught up, because if I say this all the time, if you live for the applauses, you'll die to the boos.
Yeah.
So I don't live for the applauses of people, because them applauses can quickly turn to boos. And so if I live for that, when the boos come, I'll be in a corner somewhere ready to shrink. And God didn't create me to shrink. I had a purpose before I knew I had a purpose. And now that I know my purpose, saying this in not in a boastful way, but in a confident way, I know who I am. And when you know who you are, you just move differently and you move accordingly. And so I've wanted to quit many a times, but I remembered why I started.
That's amazing. Thank you so
much. And this
much.
is good. I'm going to stay for a couple more minutes because I want to hear somebody else too.
Okay. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that piece. There's a theme there between all three of you talking about rest and the importance of taking a step back. Gianna said taking a step back. I'm a perfectionist, working on not being one. Just understanding that giving myself grace is important, and that I'm enough. That's what I tell myself every day. I am enough, right? And I deserve to be here. I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a reason. But I used to beat myself up for needing rest. I used to go until my body just finally shut down. That's not a good feeling. Now, today at 47, I will take a do nothing day. I will take a Saturday. I will take advantage of the fact that I do not have children. I will take advantage of the fact that my husband works on Saturdays and I got the whole house to myself. I might clean up. I might watch Lifetime all day. Whatever it is, I'm doing it to make sure that I have enough fuel to go back to the following week, because I know on Monday I got to get up and do it again, right? And I have a very demanding career, but it's very fulfilling as well. I work with a wonderful team, and I know I'm a part of that team, and I know they depend on me to do my part. So I have to take the time, because I can't give from an empty well, right? So that's really, really important. Thank you so much for sharing that, Felicia. I'm going to pass to Jocelyn and ask the same question. Have you ever felt so discouraged? And I know your story is going to be a little different because you've ventured into entrepreneurship. And I know that the restaurant business, could come with the highs and lows. So please share with us. Sometimes you may have wanted to quit, you've been discouraged, but you encourage yourself to push on, to move on.
So Miss Felicia over there got me almost all misty-eyed.
You got me in tears. Yeah, that's
what's today? So I say that jokingly, but honest. There are days, moments, constantly when I'm like, okay, I've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing your why is so imperative. Because for me, being an entrepreneur, being this my only stream of income, like a tide, it rolls in and it rolls out. It rolls in, it rolls out. Today may be an amazing day. Then come back tomorrow and it's a horrible day. Mm-hmm. So I look at every day as a grand opening. Mm-hmm. And do I ever get disappointed? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Do I ever say I want to quit? I verbally say I want to quit. And this is part of the process in learning how to speak to myself and encourage myself. Because as Felicia so eloquently said, knowing your why, that why will propel you to get up when you feel like you don't want to get up. Mm-hmm. Like you, there are times, although right now I'm working 7 days a week because we're launching, doing different things. My 7-day a week may not be your 5-day a week, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I'm up at the crack of dawn, I may be dialed back doing nothing when you're still on the go. So being able to take those moments for yourself. And just because your peace may not look like my peace doesn't mean that I don't have peace, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So just, keeping it rolling and understand that my journey is not the next person's journey. Again, giving myself grace abounds, grace abounds. And I don't have to live to the standards or what somebody else does. And understanding that my walk is totally independent. And, we may be walking to the parking lot. You may choose to go through the front door, whereas I might want to go through the side door and walk around. It doesn't make me wrong because we're going to end up at the same location. So that piece, I'm learning that it's okay. That if I choose to go out the side door, I might just want to take in the roses that are on the side of the building just for a little bit of extra beauty. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I go through the front door, I'm immediately to the car on to the next stop. But the whole objective is that we're getting to the same place. Mm-hmm. And so all that to say is, yes, my why is that's the fuel that keeps me going, even when I don't want to go. There are times when, especially when I tell people all the time, I faith walk like Snoop Dogg Crip walks. So I'm always faith walking. And with that faith walk, there are a lot of times I look in the bank and I'm like, oh my God, but I still get up and I still go and I still do. And I genuinely believe things don't just happen, they happen justly. And Felicia said it best. The author wrote it, right? So God does not give a vision without provision. And so even in times when I think that I'm out and the count is in place, something miraculously happens. A call, an email, you meet somebody, or someone says, Jocelyn, I saw you do X, Y, and Z, and it so encouraged me. It did. And then it has a domino effect, and it'll hit my heart, it'll hit my mind, it'll hit my spirit that will enable me to keep going. Mm-hmm. And I'll put it this way: the energy you give is the energy you get. Yeah. And the only one who can control that energy is you. Yeah. And so with that energy, even when I'm down and out, I'm still that same energy. So it's going to attract to me whatever I need to keep going or do whatever it is that I need to do. And that's what I have to continuously remind myself. It's not about me, but it's about the purpose. It's about the journey. It's about the destiny that's been anointed and appointed for me in this era of my life to keep moving. So no, nobody said it was going to be easy. And if it was easy, everybody do it.
Yes.
But even in the hard times, it reminds me, you driving down the street, you think about it, your rear view mirror is much tinier than your front view mirror, because that's all of the opportunity that exists. And when you have those moments of doubt, your rear view mirror is to remind you from whence you've come.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really good. And it's smaller for a reason.
Tell me about
it. That is really, really good. Deanna, I want to ask you the same question, but I want to frame it in a different way. Being that you are originally from Cuba, yes?
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that coming over to America, tell us like when that happened, how it happened, and I'm pretty sure that there were some times in that journey for you were left discouraged, and you've obviously pushed past and made your way through. So just tell us about a time when maybe you were discouraged and wanted to quit, and how you made it over.
So a little bit about, like you mentioned, I was born in Cuba. I immigrated with my family when I was 5 years old. I did not know any English. I was a lot younger than a lot of immigrants I've met throughout my life. A lot of them, I think, are in a harder situation than I was, because they were much older and had to assimilate both to the culture. They were like later in their life trying to learn the language and all of that. So I was really fortunate in that aspect. I told you guys I'm a perfectionist. I still remember sitting in my kindergarten class, and I could not understand the teacher. So I want you to picture, if you have kids or if you remember things you did in kindergarten, what you had to do, what the assignments looked like.
Yeah.
And I was so panicked that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, that I would copy off the kid next to me to try to figure out what to do and how to figure things out. And that's something that I took with me my entire schooling life, is not the copying piece, not that piece, but just trying to fill those gaps and learn and be better and continue to overcome that. I'm in a STEM field. Like I said, I have a chemical engineering bachelor's degree. It did not come easy. I actually graduated. I tell students this all the time. I graduated with under a 3.0 GPA. I went to my senior career fair, and no company wanted to hire me. One out of hundreds at a career fair gave me an opportunity, and that ended up being in the steel industry in Northwest Indiana. But I was also working full time when I was in school. I was working over 40 hours a week. I was engaged in student organizations, and the impact happened to be my grades. I just didn't balance it well. I told someone that story, and they gave me a shot, and I ended up here. And then I worked in the steel industry and got some experience there, wanted to try something new. I currently work for NIPSCO. I applied to 3 different jobs at NIPSCO before I was hired in as an entry-level engineer. Every job that I applied to said, we really like you as a candidate, but we have other candidates that have better experience. They come from a utility industry. They'd be able to hit the floor running. And every single time, all I would think in my head is, if you just give me a shot, like I will show you what I can do. And we talk a little bit about what you're meant to do, what your purpose was. I really believe that it was meant for me not to have those roles, because I don't think I would be in the position that I am right now. I was made an offer. I accepted it. I had a fantastic leader in that role that saw something in me where, like I said, I had experiences throughout my life where no one took that extra piece of attention. That's something that inspires me in my leadership today, is that leader at that time, just seeing something in me and pushing me to have these additional experiences that let me think about being a leader, that let me keep moving forward. Now I'm in a manager role here. I oversee some of the assets here at NiSource or NIPSCO, but I've continued to grow. I will continue to grow. I get told all the time that there's things that I could be doing better. Hey, think about this, where for me, it might feel like I'm getting stopped or there's an obstacle in my way. And then some days I get discouraged. I wake up and I say, this is too hard. Like, this must not be meant to be because it's so hard. And then I have to remember where I came from and the journey that I had. And all of those experiences led me to here. So maybe I'm waking up and today is hard because I'm meant to do more and I'm meant to go through this experience. And I have to remember that every single day all the time. I have to remember that there's a reason that I'm going through what I'm going through. I'm going to get something out of that. There's going to be a learning opportunity for myself. Maybe I'm influencing somebody else and they can learn from that experience too. And then I'll be able to do whatever else I am meant to do. But accepting that and being able to see that makes it so when I have those experiences, my first thought isn't, okay, I'm going to quit. I'm going to step away. It's really trying to understand why. Like, what can I do different? How can I learn from this? What can I take away from this to take me to that next step, whatever that next step might be, whether I know about it right now or not.
You know, I'm looking at thank you for that. That was like filled with so many gems, and you are really speaking to me. And I know a lot of other people who are watching and will see the recording later. That was so powerful. And looking at the time, it's 12:43. 45 minutes was not enough time. Like, I want a part 2 to continue this conversation, because one thing I'm noticing, well, for one, we're never by ourselves, right? The reason why people have accused me of being an oversharer, the reason why I share my story so much is because there's always someone else who has been through what you're going through, or is currently going through the same thing. There is a thread between the 4 of us. Like, each one of you have spoken, you've spoken to a piece of my life, whether it's in the past or something that I'm currently going through. And I know that there's another woman out there that's definitely encouraged by what you shared today. I'm serious when I say I want to do a part 2. We're going to figure out how to do that, whether it be live or something, because I still have like 4 or 5 questions to ask you guys. And I'm pretty sure there are questions in the chat. Sheila, do we have any like questions, or is it just mostly like testimonies? Or
Most people are saying that there's some comments about, giving yourself grace. And I made a comment about vulnerability. What I really enjoyed today is that the 3 of you, and Makisha as well, really shared your vulnerability, and that takes bravery. So, part of the thing about leadership is, you have to be brave to be a leader. You have to be able to take calculated risks. You have to be able to trust yourself. But opening yourself up to people who you can see their name on your screen, but you have no idea. Most of them you probably don't know, and that takes such bravery to say, you know what, here's where when I wake up in the morning, like Gianna said, when I wake up and I'm like, I'm not. And Jocelyn, the ups and downs of a small business, expanding, all the challenges with, your customers and your supplies and your finance. I mean, each of you, Felicia, I know really well from our work together in Michigan City, and she has lots of things going on in her life that create challenge. But to give yourself grace, I really like that you each talked about your vulnerability, the challenges, and then being able to find your why and stick to it. Just really powerful. Makisha, I do think that there's room for a round 2.
There's room for a round 2.
Good. Yeah, I think you're speaking to a lot of us on this call, but also we're going to be making this available on YouTube, and I have a feeling it's going to be a really well-watched recording.
This is going to be a powerful piece, and I'm hoping, like I said, you guys are with us forever, because this will go on our website.
Right.
We will share it, and we'll give it to you guys to share as well. But I am going to be in touch with all 3 of you so that we can figure out how to do part 2, and we'll make it a little bit longer, because I know there's more to share, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you guys so much for sharing and for coming out. This was actually more than I anticipated.
Yeah, it was great.
It was. I mean that in a good way. You guys really, all 3 of you, Felicia, Jocelyn, and Gianna, thank you so much for being vulnerable. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And to our audience, thank you guys. I see some people who have joined us frequently. Thank you guys for your continued support. And I see some new people too. Thank you guys for joining. And hopefully you guys will check us out in April for our next one. So for now, we're going to sign off.